The heart of person-centered counseling rests on three critical personality characteristics that Carl Rogers, the founder of this therapy and philosophy of living, believed were critical: congruence, unconditional positive regard, and empathy. People who are congruent are real, genuine, or transparent with others. Their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are in sync. However, it is important to note that therapists who are congruent do not necessarily express moment-to-moment feelings with clients, as sometimes such feelings can rapidly change and often deepen over time. However, it is important for the therapist to express feelings toward his or her client, even negative ones, if such feelings are persistent. Otherwise, the relationship would be marred by falseness or incongruity. Unconditional positive regard is the ability to provide the client with a sense of acceptance regardless of what feelings or experiences are expressed by the client. Such acceptance allows the client to feel safe within the relationship and to delve deeper into him or herself. Person-centered counselors believe that individuals are born with a need to be loved, and when significant others, such as parents, do not provide unconditional positive regard, children end up living as they believe others would want them to be, as opposed to being who they really are. The last quality, empathic understanding, has been one of the most widely used tools of the counseling relationship, regardless of theoretical orientation, and has been shown to be a critical factor in positive therapeutic outcomes. Empathy can be demonstrated in many ways, including accurately reflecting the client's meaning and affect, using a metaphor, analogy, or visual image, or simply nodding one's head or gently touching the client during the client's deepest moments of pain. A therapist who shows empathy is with the client, hears the client, understands the client fully, and is able to communicate such understanding to the client. Let's join Dr. Ed Newkrug as he tries to embody the characteristics of congruence, unconditional positive regard, and empathy with Jose, who is discussing some concerns he has about his mother and younger brother.
Hi, Jose. Thanks for coming in today. And I know you had some things you wanted to talk about, so where would you like to start?
Well, actually, I'm very concerned about my brother back home in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I think that the environment in which I grew up in is getting the best of him.
Okay.
So one of my plans is to actually finish, go back to school, do a PhD, and hopefully move to Florida.
Okay.
Be able to bring him with me, and also my mom. So I'm kind of concerned about he gets in any trouble more than he already is.
Okay.
So
you're concerned about your brother, obviously, and somewhat your mom also, and
correct.
And you're hoping to move to Florida as quickly as possible.
Right.
And so you can help him out.
Right. Right. And, my mom have done a lot for all the family for so many years.
Right.
I think it is time for her to relax. And I think if my plans go as I have them worked out,
right,
I'll be able to provide that for her.
Okay. So you want to give back to your mom
because
she's given to you so much over the
years.
Correct.
Correct. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So okay. I think that and back in Puerto Rico, the things are really getting difficult all the time. So
it feels like things are getting worse there.
Yes.
And I guess I'm hearing, in some ways, the urgency that you're feeling.
Correct. That's one of my main concerns is the urgency of getting him out.
Okay.
And for me not be able to accomplish what I want to do in the time that I wanted to or I need to.
Okay. So the urgency of both helping your brother and your mother and getting to Florida, it seems like if you got to Florida that would be easier to do it from there.
Correct. Yes. Basically, Florida here in the United States is the most similar environment to Puerto Rico.
Right.
Not just that. I went recently to the 25th high school reunion, and I found out that a lot of my schoolmates live in Florida.
Right.
So actually, even I've never been in Florida.
Right.
I know more friends and family that live there than actually people that I know here in Norfolk. And I've been here for 6 years.
Right. So you feel, in a sense, you feel more connected to people in Florida, even though you've never lived there.
Yes.
And it feels also more like an environment that feels more similar to where you grew up.
Correct. This time was kind of, that I went back to Puerto Rico was kind of shocking because for the first time I realized that I won't be back. It's not really an option at this time because of the financial situation back in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So it was a hard reality to accept.
Okay. So it kind of hit you when you went back this last time that you weren't going to move back there.
Correct.
And I guess up to that point in time, you were thinking that might be something that you would
Correct. That's home. That is home.
Okay.
So realizing that not going back home is not a real option is really shocked me.
Yeah, I would guess that taking that feeling of home out of your life must be hard in many ways.
Correct. And the little that I have achieved to this point, the success that I have to this point, I don't think it is complete without having the opportunity to help my mom, get my mom out of there, and my little brother. So it's kind of.
So you're not going to feel complete unless you move to Florida and help your mom and your brother, who's been having some real issues.
Correct. Yeah, especially things getting worse every time. And actually, today is it's going to be a friend of mine, very, very good friend of mine that we grew up together. And once again, it's the environment around is so bad, that I get this suck them up. Okay. They don't really get to see out of that environment.
So you're going to a funeral of a friend of yours?
I won't be able to, but today he's buried back in my hometown.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom called me and she told me, listen, I want to tell you something. And she told me, wow. So that's kind of remind me of the sense of urgency to actually do what I want to do and get them out of there as soon as I can.
Okay. And so somehow the death of this friend of yours is making it more present for you, or more urgent for you to do something to help your mom and your mother. Correct.
Yes, it really worries me. It really worries me. And I talk to my mom every Sunday, and I ask her, how's my brother doing? He's still running around. And if I don't help him, I don't think anybody will, because he's been living with my mom for several years, and he's just stuck. He's just living there. He's not making any progress.
Okay.
So he just kind of at the mercy of what is around him, basically.
Okay, and you're feeling like it's a life or death situation for him.
It may come to that. It may come. It's likely, with his lifestyle is not the most healthy one. So he's younger than I am,
Right.
and when he stands next to me, he looks older.
Okay.
And it's really, worries me.
So his lifestyle has really kind of, in a way, drained the life out of him. And again, I hear your love for them, and I hear your concern about them, and I hear the urgency again of you feeling like you need to do something.
Correct. Yes. I have to do something. I'm the older.
Right.
So, and we grew up with single family home. So,
Okay.
what we owe it to our mom. So, and she's doing the best she can, but she's still worried a lot about him. So he's wearing her out,
Right.
even at this stage.
Right.
So,
And being the older, you feel some responsibility for both taking care of your younger brother and for helping out your mom.
correct. Yes. I think that, and he's a very hard worker. He's really hard worker. I know that if I'm able to get him out of there, mingle with me here, he will adapt.
Yeah.
And he won't have that a choice of just walking next to the bar or something like that.
Right.
That's one of the things.
Right.
There's a bar or a liquor store every 10 feet there.
Yeah, he drinks a lot.
Yes. So
I think one of the things I'm hearing also is kind of the tug, maybe the internal tug that you're feeling between things that you need to finish up here and also your need to take care of them.
Right.
And move to Florida. And that must be a real struggle for you.
It is. I feel that in order for me to be able to be more effective in helping them, I think I must. It's also something that I really want to do. Go for the PhD. But I think that if I'm able to accomplish that,
Right.
I will be more better positioned to help them out.
Okay.
So, but that will take me a few years.
Right.
So that's
Right.
my concern. I try to balance that.
How can you do both of those things?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's getting if you get the PhD, you're in a better position to help them. But on the other hand, if you get the PhD, you're waiting, and you don't want to wait too long.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it sounds like. Well, I guess what I'm hearing is again your concern about your family, your desire and you're wanting to help your family, and you want to do it in the best way possible, and that you have a lot of important choices to make for yourself, and that they're pretty difficult choices because people's lives are at stake.
Right. Correct. Yes. Yes. So basically, it's weighting those decisions is really. I'm hoping that I'm making the right ones.
Okay.
So, yes, that's every day, I guess, reassessment of my decisions, and I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I guess I'm sitting here thinking, boy, I wish I could make those decisions for you and tell you what would be the right one to make, but at the same time, I'm thinking only you have that inner sense of what's going to be right for you and your family.
I agree. I think I'm the one who should arrive to that decision, because I think I'm in a position in which I can not just balance the decisions, but also I know the details of the situation.
Right.
And I grew up there, so I know how it is there.
At the same time, I hope that maybe I can be helpful to you in kind of helping you look at some of the feelings you have inside that will help you direct you to the right decision for you.
Okay.
So maybe that's something we can do here and, talk about.
Certainly, I guess, talking about how do I feel about it, and having feedback or a sense of direction, whether or not I am going the right way, will be very helpful.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing.
Well, Ed, there was a gentleness about this session that may characterize person-centered counseling. Maybe that is a springboard for us to understand what were you trying to do with Jose, and what do you think happened as a result of the session?
Right. I guess some good questions. I think mostly what I'm trying to do is hear Jose clearly. And so I need to be kind of a vessel to take in what he's saying to me, both his thoughts and his feelings. So I want to hear him clearly, and maybe even hear him at deeper levels of his own experience, and reflect that back to him. Sometimes people aren't in touch with some of their own feelings. It's kind of slightly out of their awareness, and if I can hear some of their feelings and give it back to them, then I'm providing them some deeper levels of awareness about self. And so that's what I'm striving all the time, to just be hearing him clearly and letting him know that I'm understanding him.
And what can that do for a client, to going to deeper levels of understanding? How does that help them solve their problems, let's say?
Well, I think in terms of the person-centered approach, which again is humanistically based, we're talking about a person getting in touch with their inner selves in a clear way, and that a lot of times I think we have ways of not being in touch with ourselves. And so if I can hear them and tell them my sense of what they're going through, I can help them hear themselves better and help them make clearer choices for themselves in their lives. In the case of Jose, he was struggling with some very difficult issues around his family, his mother and his brother in particular, and what types of choices he was going to make, and trying to balance that with some of his own life issues.
What I hear is helping people be congruent in their choices, so that the inner matches the outer, and so that maybe Jose will be doing and be more clear and confident that what he's doing is what he wants to do. Merely by hearing himself speak, and you mentioned as a vessel for his speaking about himself.
Right, exactly.
So you attempt to be congruent as a person in this approach, to help the client become congruent with, again, the parts of themselves that are maybe mixed up or in conflict, and then what you do is model some congruence when you're working with that person, and attempt to help them, as you say, go deeper somewhere from their more superficial defenses, I guess we'd call them.
And I think there were a couple times, at least in this short session, in which I heard some deeper feelings that I tried to reflect back to him. I also, when you talk about congruency, I think about the importance of the therapist being together within him or herself, which speaks to how important it is for all therapists to have been through their own therapy or therapeutic type experiences. So they do hear the client clearly.
And you know, that brings up the issue of the counselor as authority. In some ways, being authority doesn't mean a person is incongruent, but it also tells me that you are not playing a role, some kind of official kind of capacity, that there's something about you as another human being in the room with the other person that seems important to this approach.
I certainly don't see it as my role to tell the client what to do. I view people as being self-determining and being able to make their own choices if they are in touch with themselves. And so that's what I see my purpose as being, to help them be in touch with themselves so they can make good choices for themselves. I really liked what Carl Rogers said about clarity and choice, and he felt like if we become more clear within ourselves, our choices become clearer.
Okay. Does that mean, I guess it seems like that means you go with the flow as a counselor in the session, rather than going against the flow, which some counseling approaches more or less interrupt the person's thinking. There's something about this approach that seems like it's going with the grain, going with the flow. On the other hand, Are you adding anything to the person's
Right.
experience?
Right. Excellent question. I have two thoughts on that. One is that I am going with the flow, and I think throughout that session, you saw Jose saying "correct" to me. I was in line with him.
Yes.
I was hearing him correctly. He's telling me that. I'm hearing that from him, and so I can keep going with it. The other piece is, do I add anything to it? Well, first, the research on empathic responding shows that if you just go with the flow, that's going to be helpful for clients. But I do think you have opportunities for adding. And how do you add? You hear the client's deeper feelings and you reflect it back to them. Maybe feelings that they're not saying to themselves. I think I used the word urgency with Jose. And he wasn't using that word with me, but I reflected that back. And so you hear deeper levels of feelings and give it back to them. That's one way. Other ways of adding to a session might be using metaphors or using analogies to help people view the situation in different ways. But you're using those metaphors and analogies based on what they're giving you, not based on some type of preset model, as a Freudian might do. And so there are multiple ways besides just kind of the traditional reflective listening or active listening ways of telling a client that you hear them in deep ways.
So what I'm hearing is the classic notion, and a very difficult notion, of empathy. In other words, it's no simple achievement to be empathic with another. And you can be empathic in a more simple, interchangeable way, but you can also do it in a way in which you add a person's understanding, but you don't put in anything new to the client's experience.
Right. And in fact, Carl Rogers later in his life wrote an article about reflective listening, and he said that in that article that he never actually used that term reflective listening. Other people use that. What he said was show the client that you understand him or her, and you can do that in multiple ways, as we just mentioned.
And one method that people give a name to is reflective responding.
Right.
And that's actually it's an act. It's a commitment you make, which comes out as maybe a skill, we can call it. But it's a frame of mind that you're in to be empathic.
And that's one way. And again, there are these other ways also.
I want to add one piece that seems important. At the end of the session, Jose said, I would like to get some feedback and a sense of direction. And I thought to myself, he might wind up with a sense of direction, but I don't think it's going to come from you giving him feedback or giving him a sense of direction. Can you just say something about that?
Yeah, he's asking me a very direct question, and I don't want to avoid the question by just giving a reflective response. That would be kind of silly. I want to be real with him, and I genuinely feel like I can't give him a sense of direction, but I also genuinely feel that I can help him find his own sense of direction.
Yes.
And that's basically what I said to him.
He will be giving himself feedback in the process of your helping him discover his sense of direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's really illuminates what we just saw in that session.
I appreciate you going over this with me.
Right. You're welcome.